Welcome to Shop Talk Live, Fine Woodworking's bi-weekly podcast. I'm here with Fine Woodworking Creative Director Mike Pekovich.
Hey guys.
Associate Editor Barry Dima.
Hello.
And Taunton AV czar Jeff Rose.
Hey there.
I'm your host Ben Strano. If you have any questions you'd like us to answer on the show, send them into shoptalk@taunton.com. Any links or articles we mention will be on this episode's show notes page, which can be found at shoptalklive.com. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that thumbs up button. It actually helps. So
we got Barry.
Barry.
I'm finally here.
Welcome, man.
Thank you for having me.
I call it Barry F. Dima. And I'm having a hard time not filling in the middle one right now.
Because Francis is an embarrassing middle name. Why he's different letters on my byline.
Oh, Barry, you've been at the magazine, what, almost 2 years?
Just over a year, since April 2017. Because we're in 2018, so 2017.
Good.
Yeah.
Which is like a month in fine woodworking time.
It feels like it. I'm just catching up now.
Unfortunately, a month of fine woodworking time ages your body 4 years.
Yes, exactly. So it works both
You got me right out of college, so this is kind of...
But do you not think like the learning curve as an editor of fine woodworking is longer than, say, making Domino's pizza?
I imagine. Yeah. Because at Domino's Pizza, I feel like there's a lot of coaching, I'd hope. You know, 'cause it's like a food product. But you guys like, Barry, go to Salt Lake City, take photos. Like, all right, I'll see you later.
And you came back with a pizza. So it's like, okay.
At least you had other people around you doing the job.
That's true.
I was just like in a bubble, and it was like literally Tom dropped me off at my desk. He's like, get to work. I was like, I don't know what this job is. And one of these days I'll figure it out.
It's tough. It's like bringing a new editor on at the magazine is like driving down the highway at 90 miles an hour and changing your tire without stopping.
I'm trying to figure that out right now. Yeah. Well,
So you're saying I'm a lost cause? This is hopeless?
Saying this,
you're an accident waiting to happen.
it just means there's a rough patch, but the deadlines don't stop coming.
No, they don't.
But Barry has risen.
Barry is awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Barry as if he's not here.
I'm outside of the car at 90 miles an hour.
Can I come in? No.
I mean, well, so Barry, one thing that we liked about Barry, who's not in this room,
Yes.
was that he brought a different perspective. And like, I remember in your interview, we're like, what would be the piece of furniture that you'd like to build the most? And Barry was like, I want to build a carved throne. Who the hell is this guy?
I think I said joined chair.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, but in your portfolio, I think you did include a Legend of Zelda sword.
Oh, yeah, the Master Sword from Ocarina of Time.
That's right.
At some point, you're just going to be specializing in wooden sword building.
Yeah, because I just made the Minecraft props, like
Yes.
a pickaxe and a sword. So
Which was brilliant.
Yeah.
it's pretty enjoyable. You get to paint, you get to make swords. I don't know what else there is to woodworking.
But yeah, you do bring a different flavor. In fact, both you and Ben are sort of teaming up to kind of bring green woodworking more to the forefront in terms of what our editors like to be doing in their spare time. Because where Ben is kind of spoon carving, chair making, cool stuff, you were more
You're
kind
lame.
of like the Peter Follensby style carving, and you've even split logs up into boards. You did that little desktop desk kind of a thing with Peter. So
Yeah.
We split logs up for you. Those are still sitting in front of your shop, aren't they?
yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
they need to be split up a little smaller.
We're going to have to go back over and help Mike again.
Well, the cool part is with the green woodworking and that bent is as an editor, like there are tons of people doing it. So when I want to pitch an article that looks really fun, it's because there are a ton of people doing great work, and it makes the pitch easier other than, hey, I think this is neat. It's like, oh, it's neat and it's gorgeous. You know, let's go do it.
He really brought that one back around, didn't he?
Did. It's a little scary. Let's change the subject. You got any questions?
Yeah, we have questions. Many, many questions.
No answers, though.
All right. Question number 1 is from Bobby. Some woodworkers I follow are from Japan and Korea, like Ishitani Furniture on YouTube, and they do their final prep work before putting on finish differently. Some will get a sharp hand plane and go over the surface of the wood and not sand. What? Others will go through their steps of sanding from low grits to high grits. Is it a good idea to plane and not sand before applying finish? I enjoy getting that mirror finish with my plane, and I feel that sanding kind of ruins it. But that's also what I'm supposed to do. You sand.
Mm-hmm.
I sand. So that's what you're supposed to do, Bobby.
That's it.
Answer simple as that.
I sometimes sand.
Yeah, ditto.
I don't know if I don't have to.
Yeah.
But most of the finishes I apply will tend to raise the grain a little bit, even if it's hand planed. So I end up sanding during the finishing process anyway.
So you count that as sanding?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's this notion of, once you hand plane and get a perfect surface, you don't want to defile it with sandpaper. And to me, yes, I understand some people do that. I think Andrew Hunter, who works a lot with pine and is very proficient at using Japanese hand planes. Mm-hmm. In fact, he's like demonstrating them this weekend, actually last weekend, because this is going to be delayed. So sorry, I can't go. There's a Japanese tool sort of convention thing in Peekskill, New York. Anyway, he basically likes to, I think the final finish comes directly off the plane and he doesn't put any finish at all on his work. So I think that's kind of one extreme. I think one of the notions of not sanding after planing, I think it has to do with, like you said, maybe sort of like ruining that surface. Like I just got this and I'm going to ruin it. But a lot of what the hand plane is doing is getting the surface really, really flat, not necessarily smooth. It can make it really smooth. It can also leave tear out and stuff, which is not smooth, but it's basically flat. If you start with sandpaper, it's not good at flattening, but it's really good at smoothing.
Think like a hand plane.
Yeah.
Smooth
Can we
move,
just
Ben.
rerun that segment of the episode of stuff? Insert here. So basically this notion, if you start with sandpaper, you can get sort of undulating surfaces, which will kind of distort under a finish of any type of gloss, whereas a hand plane surface will reflect in a more true fashion. So if you follow a hand plane with sanding, as long as you're not doing a ton of sanding, you're not unflattening that surface as you're smoothing it more. So I don't know. Focus more on practice, what works for you, and maybe less on philosophy, like what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing, because all the rules are just in place because someone did what they wanted to do and then wrote an article on it. And all of a sudden that becomes like what you should do. No, it's just what this person happened to end up doing because it worked for them.
Yeah, you can find somebody who works at an incredibly high level that uses any myriad of methods.
Yeah.
So you can always find somebody to prove your point.
Yes.
And if he's getting a mirror finish off the plane, it sounds spectacular to begin with. So when I sand, it's often because my plane's not getting to me where I want to be.
There you go.
And so sanding, if I plane one edge and it looks great off the plane, but the face is kind of swirly, I'm sanding everything for uniformity.
Yeah.
But if I was getting a mirror finish all the time and it always looked beautiful, not including sanding during the finishing process.
Okay.
Like I imagine I would just chill there at the hand plane. If you're getting what you want to get, keep doing that,
Yeah.
I generally, I work with mostly, with flat work, I work with mostly cherry and ash. And cherry I can generally hand plane, and then I'll hit it with either 220 or 320.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that will show me little tear out spots that I would not have seen otherwise. The fine dust falls into the tear out, and then I hit it with a card scraper to get those spots out. And then I'll probably go back over it with 220 or 320. I go up to 600 normally. And that I've never felt like I detracted from the finish because I jumped to sandpaper at some point.
Yeah.
It's always that glass smooth. By the time finish gets put on it, I'm never left wanting. I know some people that hit it with a hand plane, then start at 180 and work their way up.
Yeah.
But the hand plane is giving them that flat surface that you talk about.
Yeah.
So, but don't do something just because somebody else does it. If your friends jumped off a bridge, would you do that? Not you, Barry. Not you. Don't answer that one.
If it looked kind of fun.
Right?
Yeah, I guess so. All right. Question.
To your last point, do it just because someone else is doing it. It kind of gets back to the notion of let the final piece kind of be a decider for you. Like if someone's doing something and they say this is how to do it, and their work is really, really, really good, it's like, okay, I'm going to give that a shot. On the other hand, if it's work that maybe is a different aesthetic, they're going for something that you're not going for, and they say do this, and their work is like, yeah, but I don't want to go down that road, then don't do it. So,
well, and another thing that we didn't bring up is wood is different. You know, what might work for straight grained maple or whatever is going to be totally different on quarter sawn cherry.
Yeah.
You can't apply universal rules like that. It just doesn't work because sometimes stuff is going to tear out with hand planes.
Yeah, and we would run out of articles in a magazine. We get to issue 3, we're done. That's it.
All of it.
That's all you need to know.
Well, some say we've just been repeating some 3 anyway.
Yeah, but it took us 75 issues to do everything. We're on 272 right now. So.
Yeah. Barry, do you have anything else to add?
No.
Well said. All right.
I like this guy.
Question number 2 is from our friend Woody HG. Let's see. How do wooden smoothing planes, whether Krenov style or Japanese kana, compare to metal body planes? I've heard the physical feedback is quite different and have been tempted by these ridiculously thin shavings from the Japanese planes seen on YouTube. I know Ron Hawk sells a plane kit a la Krenov, but I wonder if the performance is determined less by the body and more by the blade. Do you see any benefits to using a wooden plane over metal planes? Barry.
So this is 2 questions, right? There's the Japanese plane one and the wooden one.
Because you can't compare a Japanese plane to a Stanley plane. It's a totally different animal, right?
Yes.
So for the sake of answering this question, should we just drop the Japanese plane part?
No.
Okay, fine.
They're really cool.
No, they are really cool, but it's not an apple to apple comparison.
Right, yeah.
It's not. Well,
So-
they're both made out of wood, but not. So have you?
Yeah, and the blade, I've never used a Japanese hand plane.
Okay.
No. So they seem fantastic. And I know that extra thick iron has a lot to do with the finish quality you can get.
Yeah.
And on top of like the actual way it's made with the
Laminated steel.
yeah,
really,
laminated.
really light.
and the love and care that goes into maintaining them, I think, has a lot to do with it. You don't just buy a Japanese plane and go, okay, I'm getting to work.
No.
You gotta raise it, if you will.
Nurture it. Love it. Tune it. Well, you have to tune it up.
Yeah. So to me, you know, it's that work that goes into making the tool work that informs the work you do with the tool.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like they wouldn't be that much more to keep up than a Western wooden hand plane or like one that you push.
Okay.
Because, so let's, like super thin gossamer shavings. That takes a lot of work on a pushing, like a wooden hand plane that you push too. Just making sure all the mating surfaces are there, that the wedge fits well, that the blade is flattened, sharpened well. Am I missing something?
Well, in Japanese hand plane, basically if you pay $300 for a Japanese plane, what you're really paying for the most part is the blade.
Yeah.
And the body, like if you buy a Japanese chisel, you expect to have to soak the lacquer off the handle and set the ring and do some fine tuning on that. And it's the same way with the plane body because the bottom of the sole isn't flat. There's actually hollows depending on the type of plane and the length and how it's used. Either in the
intentionally,
front
there's
or the back.
hollows.
Yes, so you have minimal bearing surfaces. Also, the way the blade is seated with the chip breaker in sort of a wedged notches in the sides of the throat has to be fine-tuned just right. It has to be bedded right. It's not the same as a Krenov style plane where you get a hawk iron, sharpen it up, put it in there, and then you have a wedge that holds the blade in place. There's a crossbar. You put the blade in, you wedge a wedge between the crossbar and the blade to hold it in place. A Japanese plane iron is different. It sort of wedges itself in place, so it has to be tuned just right. So,
because it tapers in the two directions, like along this way and then the thickness.
I don't know.
I don't know about
me
this.
there.
I think so. I think it tapers. So, like, it doesn't have parallel sides. I think those pinch in,
I think
and then
you're
the
wrong.
thickness tapers.
We'll have to come back to that.
You need to not ask me any more questions about the Japanese plane because I'm going to say stuff that isn't true.
All right. Is that what I just did? Is that first time on? I'm lying to people?
You're not lying. You're pushing me into
All right.
out of my depth. You're pushing me into the deep end of the Japanese plane pool. I don't want to go there. I don't have my water wings on. So I would say the biggest stumbling block to using a Japanese hand plane is getting it set up in the first place.
Yeah.
And actually, Andrew Hunter wrote an article for us doing just that. And it's pretty cool. And once you see it, if Andrew gives you his plane and he tells you how to take a shaving with it, and you take this stupendous shaving, it's like, I need to go here.
You have done that?
I have.
Yeah. So I have used the Japanese hand plane, but it was Andrew Hunter's, so it doesn't count.
No, that does count. Because that is a good example of it.
It's like I drove Mario Andretti's car. I'm a great
That's
car
right.
driver.
So using a good hand plane, is that worth it to you to sort of get that up and running at some point to get your own plane to that level of
For push wooden planes?
like a Japanese plane, like Andrew's?
I would probably dabble a little bit more for get a jack plane, that doesn't need to be set up exactly the way it is. That's how I got into wooden hand planes. It just, you get a jack, you're not worried about the super thin, perfect, smoother shavings. And you kind of understand how to treat the wedge and what you're looking for and adjustment. So
when we say a jack plane, you mean a wooden body plane?
Wooden body,
Larger.
14 inches long. The mouth doesn't need to be super closed. I would do double iron just because why not? With the chip breaker and the blade.
Yes.
But yeah, I wouldn't start off with a smoother right away. Even if you want to explore wooden hand planes, get yourself a $20 jack plane and dive in that way. Because that gives you a lot more room where you're not so worried about the shaving and you can see, do I like the feedback? Do I like adjusting it between seasons?
Do I like adjusting the blade depth?
Right. Do
with
I
a
like
hammer?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Which is really easy, but it's a thing. It's another thing you have to get used to. Holding it feels different. So, yeah, get a low pressure jack plane.
That's a really good point. That's a really good idea. Yeah, because with a smoothing plane, if it's not dialed in, you're not going to have success, and you might unfairly judge the wooden plane based on the lack of success.
On the other hand, you could build a Krenov plane very easily.
Oh, yeah.
With a hawk iron in there, and you could dial in a nice flat sole and get the throat nice and tight, sharpen up the blade, and you can get smoothing plane quality shavings right off the bat.
Okay,
Do you ever use a Krenov style plane?
Yeah, I have a couple. I made one, just a flat sole. It was longer, about the size, like a longer smoothing plane. The problem is the wood wasn't tremendously stable, and living in Connecticut with the really drastic humidity changes summer and winter, the body kept moving, so I kept cutting it shorter and shorter. So now I'd say it's somewhere between a short smoother and a longer block plane. It's really cool.
Wow.
So I can use it one-handed, use it two-handed. I love the plane. Do you like it? Oh, I love my plane. How often do you use it, Mike? Not that often.
So why?
I don't know. All I think because of that, I think for the most part, the bottom is probably not flat.
Okay.
And I would have to, if I picked it up to use it, I would have to do something to that plane in order to get it to work. Whereas a metal body, Stanley, Bailey, Bedrock, Lee Nielsen, Veritas, boom, you pick it up, it works. It doesn't matter what season or what the humidity is.
I think that we sometimes give you a hard time about the number of planes you own.
And then you remember that he's made some on top of the one.
But what's lost in that is you're not a tool collector.
No, I'm not.
You couldn't care less about collecting tools. You own a lot of planes because they're the ones that get the job done for you quickly and efficiently.
Yeah.
If you were the type of person who was more into tuning up tools, making tools, whatever, your primary focus is going out to the shop making furniture.
Yeah, definitely.
But there are lots of people out there who that's part of it for them. They like making marking gauges or they like whatever, and if that's part of it for you, then probably a Krenov style plane is a really, really fun place to start.
I think for everybody should make a Krenov style plane. They are cool.
Just don't use it.
And I mean, the feedback is much different.
I love the feedback
from the wooden plane. I mean, I think, it's a more direct connection to the wood, not just because you're holding wood, but I think the vibration and the little, the transfer of the cutting of the blade, that feel and everything, it's a more direct contact, I think.
Yeah, it feels a lot more resonant when I'm using it,
Yeah.
But that worrying about flattening the bottom is another reason I'd go jack. Like it's a $40 experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's if you'd use the Hawk blade.
And you're talking about an old tool.
Yeah, which you can get even cheaper. So, where's your price point? What do you want to do?
Yeah.
Because you don't really have to worry about a flat bottom. But also, are you using a jack plane? Like how much handwork is entering your day-to-day woodworking?
And if you're working green ribbon oak.
I don't want to put a metal plane on that.
Yeah, and also
Why?
it's like, what's the level of finish you're trying to get out of there anyway?
Yeah, because it's still green. You're going to have to take a finish cut later.
Right.
The tannins, I believe, in the oak can corrode. They're especially potent, I guess, when it's green.
Yeah, it just gets wetter. Yeah.
So if it gets on the bottom of your metal body plane, it can corrode it if you don't clean it off.
Okay.
Also turns your wood black.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Anyway. The second Krenov style plane I made, and this is really, really cool. I was doing a bed for some friends, and the headboards had coopered panels to them, so they're curved.
Oh, dude.
The outside of that curve is really easy to smooth with whatever, hand plane, block plane. The inside of the curve with those facets was a little tougher to do, so I bought a cambered or a blade with a rounded profile to it from Hawk, and I made a Krenov style plane and rounded the body to match the plane iron, which obviously you can't necessarily buy a plane to the radius that you want. And but it was like really, really easy to make, and that idea of making a custom tool for a specific job was neat, and that sort of becomes my. I'll use that plane on the pine drawer bottoms if I want to put sort of like a little scallop surface on it.
Sweet.
Just because it's kind of a nice surprise, almost akin to like a scrub plane or something like that.
Just a little bit more subtle.
Yeah.
Clark Kellogg did an article on that, didn't he? Making a coopered plane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was that with the?
It was when he did the
In tandem with that wall cabinet.
Yeah, a little Krenov style cabinet.
Yeah, with the curve, such.
Yeah, Cooper doors.
I don't know if it's Cooper or if it's just curved solid doors.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So, but there is no real benefits other than coolness, experience.
But how much is coolness related to the tools we choose anyway?
And in the winter, I worked in an unheated shop for a while.
Yeah.
I hated touching anything metal. So like just grabbing that wooden body plane, I was like, thank you.
You said this before, and like, really?
Because you're holding like the wooden toe to the plane and the hand on a metal body.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of wood, but I was just so mad that metal got so cold. The wooden ones just felt like they were taking care of me.
Yeah.
Well, to each their own. All right. I say it's time that we move on to our all-time favorite tool of all time for this week.
I'll go first.
Ooh. Right?
Right?
Wow.
Only because I saw some pictures up on the screen Jeff was going through, and it looked like someone might have said the same thing.
Oh, no.
You got.
No, go ahead, because you actually did pictures.
No.
I'll change mine while you're talking.
I'm curious now. What is yours?
Sandpaper.
Oh. Mine's not just any sandpaper, though. I have 2 specific kinds of sandpaper, so mine's better.
Talk about yours, because you have pictures.
All right. So I started off thinking, I have years ago, I think it was like one of these things I put on my Amazon wish list. And I think it was because at the time I was watching the PBS Woodsmith Shop show, and they put adhesive back sandpaper on everything. Everything they make has adhesive back sandpaper on it.
It's great.
And I remember thinking, well, if I'm going to get into woodworking, I need to have adhesive back sandpaper. But it's expensive. I think it's like $20 a roll or something like that. And I mean, the rolls are like 200 feet long. Or something.
The 3M stuff is really expensive. Cling spore is less expensive, but it tears apart when you try to unpeel it. Like off of a glass surface. So
I use all of the ones I have are the Porter cable one. And works fine, but it's one of those things that every now and then it's just I need to make a little sanding block to do this. Pull out that adhesive back sandpaper, just stick it on there. You're not worrying about contact cement or spray adhesive or anything like that. If you're flattening the bed of a plane, adhesive back sandpaper on the wing of your table saw, boom, done. I use it not all the time, but when I use it, I'm really, really happy that I made that investment or put it on my wish list years and years ago. And when I run out of one, I keep 120, 180, 220, 320, maybe, and I think that's where I stop. But I keep those stocked. And I've had the same rolls for probably 5 years now, and nothing is more convenient than adhesive back sandpaper when you need it. But then that got me thinking is like, I need to mention I've been using, and this again is a hard pill to swallow at the time, paying $10 for a pack of sandpaper, but the 3M ultra flexible sandpaper.
It's really cool.
It's really, really great.
Where do you get that?
I got it at Lowe's.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And the packaging is a little misleading. It says like 12 sheets. Well, it's really like 3 sheets with like four perforations and squares. And I remember like getting it and I'm looking at the package. I'm like, oh my God, it's like $10 for a pack of sandpaper. All right, 12 sheets, whatever. I get home and it was like, what is this? This isn't 12 sheets. And, but it lasts so long for certain tasks. I can't imagine using anything else.
I mean, paperback sandpaper is flexible.
This is ridiculous.
This is ridiculously flexible. And you can, there's a picture of it like stretching. Yeah. God. And for spoons, I found, because you're wrapping it around your thumb trying to get into, because I still sand the bowl with my spoons because I suck. But it's any paperback sandpaper when you try and sand into a concave surface, it really does break apart.
Yeah,
quickly.
It folds. And, right.
Yeah. Any crease, all of a sudden the grit falls off that crease. Yeah. And it just escalates from there. This stuff lasts forever. I think I've only used 2 perforated sections of a sheet, and I've been using it for 6 months.
Wow.
I use it for sharpening. I wrap it around a dowel to sharpen my hook knife.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, it's well worth the extra cost.
Huh.
Definitely. If you're doing anything, I wouldn't use it for flat sanding because paperback sandpaper, that's all you need, right? Or adhesive back sandpaper on a sanding block. But if you're using any curves or anything like that, this is really, really worth the price of admission. So what sandpaper you got, Mike?
Well, I want to back up because it sounded like I was dissing cling spore, which I kind of was, and that the 3M, it just, the gold, whatever, paper rolls, it's really expensive, but they're good. I bought cling spore because it was like a ton cheaper, and at first I had the problem because I was using it on glass for stuff,
Like you do.
Flattening, flattening the backs of plane irons if it was like really, really wonky.
I'm
Or
glad you started coming up with some reasons because that was going to get weird.
Using a honing guide to reestablish the primary bevel. Using sandpaper, I would use that. And when you tried to peel it up, it would, like the backing would tear and get stuck. But I did find...
Mine does too.
I have a heat gun. And you just kind of warm it up as you go and it comes right off.
I mean, realistically, though, if you're peeling it off, what does it matter that it's tearing up?
Well, because if it's on glass, and I mean, depending on that being a really, really flat surface, I don't want to be putting stuff on top of the gunk.
It's the residue being left behind. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
right.
I thought you were trying to, like, use it again later.
No.
Okay. Okay.
And I buy Klingspor for the most part because I buy a bunch of it, like the boxes of 50 sheets each.
Do the Klingspor random orbit sander pads? They come in a container that holds them.
Oh, yeah.
And that is worth the price of admission too. Because the container to organize your sandpaper is perfect.
Wrestling them back in there isn't the easiest thing.
How many are you
It's like
taking
getting
out
a
at a
snake
time?
back in the peanut can.
Exactly. Well, I haven't yet deduced the organizational system, like how they are broken up. So I'll just take some out, look if it's not what I want.
Well, no, that's because they gave away the random packs at Fine Woodworking Live. But if you buy...
Oh. Yeah, because I got one of those freebie. I haven't used it yet, but now I want to.
It's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you're buying, I need to stock up on 180. You buy a pack of 180.
Oh, man.
And there you go.
Oh, okay,
then you have a
perfect.
little container. It's like a little coffee can. You open up and then pull out your sandpaper. Put the lid back on. I love containers.
So if you've just gotten a Rotex sander from Festool with a custom hole pattern, does Klingspor offer like the multi-hole
I
things? that will
think
fit
so. Yeah, there's a mess of holes.
Sure. Yeah, there is a mess of holes, though. It's not a ton of perforations.
Barry doesn't know about this. Any sander answer right now?
He has no fingerprints, so he can rob a bank and get away with it. He did a sander review.
I know.
People are like, what?
I think my arm bones are still rattling a
Is he,
bit.
like, part tree
Arm
frog.
bones riding from the sanders. This is getting weird.
Yeah.
So you didn't answer.
What?
You just went on for like a 5-minute tangent, not telling us what your favorite tool of all time is.
Well, it was sandpaper.
Oh.
But I'm changing it to a router plane.
The one plane you don't own.
Exactly. I don't own one, and I've decided I really want one.
They're cool.
I don't know.
New technique, new tool.
I don't know if there's a perfect router plane out there because I'm kind of would lean towards a smaller router plane. But the smaller router planes I've seen don't have the micro adjust collar. The bigger router planes have the micro adjust, but they're big. So I'm stuck between a big and a small.
The little ones, because their body is so short, I often have a hard time getting the leverage, that like the push that I want, the thrust, to get like a slice and cut, going.
Yeah.
Right. So the larger ones, if I can, I use my larger one.
Okay.
The small one I'm not using unless I'm really cleaning out a really.
All right. So you're saying go big.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So
Or go home.
yeah. Okay.
Sorry, go big.
This is going to work really well. What about, so like where I can see myself using one is if I'm cutting hinge mortises on the edge of a door.
Yeah.
And they're just a hair too shallow. And I want a way to get in there really, really clean. To me, a big one is going to be more difficult to balance on the edge.
No.
Ben's saying no.
No. I only have a big one. I've never used a small one.
Yeah.
But one thing that you can do is you can put like a piece of hardboard or 1/4-inch MDF on the bottom to fill in any of the gaps left from the mouth opening.
Oh, because the throat's pretty big.
Yeah. So that will give you a larger surface.
Right. So you
to
can go
balance.
closer to the corner of a board without it falling off. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You can always clamp a board to the edge of the door frame, just like you would if you were rounding it and you needed that extra purchase. Okay, I'm cool.
I also think, though, that some people, I mean, you would be able to do micro adjust type things with a small router plane using like a business card as a shim.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Do a little tappy tap.
Yeah, I know.
Uh-huh.
I want that little.
Yeah, I do like
down.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. I have an old Stanley, and I think one day I'll get the Veritas because the adjust function is just phenomenal on it. Yeah.
Cool.
Barry.
My turn?
My birthday's coming up.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
We're going to print you out a picture of a router plane. With a taco.
So aside from presents for Mike, I think, a little small combo square. Because I need to like talk myself into using the 12-inch one.
Yeah.
But the small one for laying out joinery, machine setups, anything, it's just right there. Whether I'm wearing my apron, it's a lot easier to hold. My 12 one, I feel like I'm sacrificing something.
What small? 6-inch?
No, like 2 to 4. 6 is great.
You have a 2-inch combo square?
It's 2, 2.5. I have a 4. I have a 6, and a 12.
You have issues.
I really like combo squares.
Now, combo square is the square where you've got one side of the head is 90, the other is 45.
Yeah, that's why I'm calling BS
Sorry.
on the 2-inch
The
combo
2.5
square.
is,
Yeah.
what is that, a machinist square?
Double square.
Double square. That one's a double square. Sorry.
Yeah.
That one, I normally don't like double squares because which side am I using?
Yeah.
I just have a hard time remembering.
Yes. But you're talking combo square.
Combo square. The 2.5 I do use sometimes if like for joinery layout or machine setup, if I just need to set it once and forget it,
Right.
or it's like a 1/2 inch and I know which side I'm using.
Right.
But as it cheats closer to 1.25 inches, I'm less likely to pick it up.
Yeah.
But regardless, I prefer combo squares under 12 inches. Or if I lost all my tools and I had to go buy one, I'm buying a 4 or a 6.
So going back to, you have a lot of squares. How many combo squares do you have under 12 inches with not the double square, but the combo square?
2.
Wow.
Yeah. The 4 and the 6.
There's actually a 4-inch combo.
Yeah. Although I just got a 4-inch Starrett off of eBay.
Cool.
And it's because my 6-inch one had been square, but then it went out. I'm like, I don't want to keep keeping this square.
Oh,
Barry also has an eBay issue.
Is that a Starrett?
Just for the record.
The 6-inch?
No, it was from a big box store thing.
Oh, so the real easy fix for that, get a Starrett.
Yeah, that's what. See,
6-inch Starrett is on my wish list.
But you can square them up really easily.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. But it was because it
video
had been square and it fell out, and I didn't drop it or anything. It might have just been wear against those two little. I'm like, I don't want to.
The cheap ones will do that because the
like
the aluminum body just wears the nubs inside the body just wear away especially if there's any nicks on the blade itself that as it travels across it'll actually wear out the aluminum. So anytime you do true up a square, make sure you sand away the rule. The sides of the rule to make sure that it's not going to happen anymore.
Yeah, so the nubs, Ben, you're talking about, so there's a slot the blade fits in at the bottom of the slot rather than being flat. There's a little nub at each end, and just by filing down one or the other very lightly, you can change the squareness of the square.
Yeah.
And on the Starrett squares, with that super hardened steel, they're most likely not going to wear out.
Yeah.
And if you do have to square it, you can get a thin file and just shorten one of those nubs.
Yeah.
So, okay. So of your 4 and 6, let's say you had a 6-inch Starrett.
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend to someone? Would you say get the 4 or get the 6?
Good question. Maybe the 4? Does he have a square otherwise? Or does the person have a square otherwise?
They have a 12-inch combo square.
Oh, then do the 4.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the smallness just makes it so much nicer for like checking an edge is square. Like any task where you just need to do something quick, one-handed with it. You're not worried about bearing that whole surface of the 12.
Right.
So it's a luxury, but I like the luxury of the smaller square.
Yeah.
So
do you have a shorty?
I have a 4-inch double square.
Yeah.
That I hate. because as I had already said, you don't know which side you're working off of. Also, mine just doesn't lock down. Like my stair at 12-inch, just you tighten it, it's locked. My 4-inch combo square does not function that way. I have a 6-inch old Stanley that I do need to true up and spend some time with, working with. I think that for me, the 6-inch is the ideal smaller square size, because with the 4-inch, I feel like there's too many times it's not big enough for, transferring marks or whatever. And a 6-inch is still a small square. It's not an unwieldy tool to me, like a 12.
Yeah. I have 12-inch stair that lives hanging up on my tool cabinet door almost always. And I have a 6-inch that I keep in my apron pocket that I use all the time, every time, exactly like you were saying. But it's an older stair with a narrower blade. I think the blade is only 3/4 of an inch wide. And I think if you get a new 6-inch stair, I think it's got the full 1-inch wide blade and the head is a little bit bigger.
I think so.
Yeah.
That or like the blade is like a 1/10 narrower.
Yeah. But on this older one, the head is smaller and the blade is narrower. It's a really, really nice size, where when I think I've looked at, and I haven't picked it up to use it, but I've looked at the new stair at 6 inches, they just seem a little more cumbersome. So that might be why maybe going to the 4-inch. Does the 4-inch have a slightly smaller head than the 6-inch?
Yeah, the 4-inch, it's maybe a 1/2 inch wide, slightly more.
Yeah, right.
It's great. So it's not an enormous difference where, like, my forearm's throbbing holding this, but it's just enough where if I had the choice and I had a 12-inch, I'm going little guy.
Yeah.
I want to take a moment to do a little combo square vent. I wish that somebody would make a replacement rule or a combo square with the smallest graduations on all 4 sides being a 1/16 of an inch. Because my stair, I pick it up, sometimes you need this side showing and all of a sudden there's like 64th showing. And it drives me nuts because I don't want to think. I don't want to have to, which is the bigger line or what.
Yeah.
If all 4 sides could be 1/16 of an inch, woodworkers everywhere would rejoice.
That'd be really rejoice. Cool. My first 12-inch combo stair, it was given to me, and now I know why it was given to me. The blade configuration on one side was 32nds and 64ths, which to your point is like, I have no idea what that line I'm looking at is. And the other side, it was 10ths and 100ths. So there was no good place to be looking on this thing. So
in oldie times, you would have dueled whoever gave it to you.
Yeah. So I think it's called a 4R blade, which is 8 16ths and then 32nd 64ths. But you would probably, I kind of like the 8ths.
I would be fine with 8ths. I understand 16ths like that. That's fine.
You allow them.
I'll let them pass. I would. No, I think I'd take 16ths over 8ths.
Yeah, because I think a very, very accurate method of measurement is you got your 16th, you got your fat 16th and a skinny 16th. Those are real things. It's like, okay. So, or 1.5 16ths. I know that. Or skinny half or fat half of a 16th. All those are much easier than trying to actually line up like a 64th. I think I can be as accurate with a 16th ruler or square than I can be with 64th.
Well, and also, when are you in woodworking? When are you ever measuring a 32nd?
For the center of something. Or
this is why we need to get him dividers.
Oh, I wanted dividers. That's my other thing.
Too bad there wasn't like a flea market you were just at with like 3,400 pairs of dividers everywhere.
And what Ben is saying is I was at a flea market. And I was working inside and I tried to get out to find dividers. I also tried to find a replacement cast iron vise, which they had a bunch of.
Not when by the time you made the move, probably.
It was brutal. Yeah, next year.
Yeah.
Or my birthday.
All right. I think it's time for us to take a quick break. When we come back, Barry's going to daydream about laying out joinery on a log.
Been doing that the whole time.
Head on over to finewoodworking.com/sweepstakes for your chance to win the Fine Woodworking and Jessam Tool Company Ultimate Router System giveaway. The winner will receive a prize that includes an ultimate router system complete with the Master R Lift Excel 2, TA fence, ALTS stand and caster set, and clear-cut stock guides. That's a $1,500 value. Good luck, everyone.
This February, experience the joy of hands-on learning with masterclasses in craft at Fine Woodworking's first ever hands-on event. Taking place at the Florida School of Woodwork, February 1st, this 3-day event is a unique opportunity to expand your skills through personalized instruction from a diverse group of experts. We have Michael Fortune, Kelly Parker, Peter Galbert, Mary May, Dixie Biggs, Jennifer Anderson, Michael Cullen, and Dave Fisher. Of course, there will be some social time between the days of hard work, where you'll be able to taste some regional flavors with local food trucks and locally brewed beer. But this event is really all about making and doing, all in an intimate setting. The class sizes are small. That's great for learning, but it means space is limited. So don't wait. Register now and come see us in Tampa.
All right, we're back. Question number 3 is from Blake. I said that weird. The garage in our new townhome is a tandem single car garage, which is 12 feet wide. I almost said 12 inches wide.
Get a 4-inch combo square. Don't do the 12.
12 feet wide and 38 feet long. My wife's compact SUV parks in one half. I get the other half. I've downsized and now everything fits well, but the issue is sound. Mm-hmm. The townhome complex has a rule: no construction noise between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. I'm sorry, 8 p.m. and 7 a.m. At our last home, my shop time was a few times per week after the kids were asleep. So my plan while here was to focus on improving my hand tool game over the next few years and just mill or dimension lumber on the occasional weekend. Here's the issue. I've come to realize that even hand tools create a significant amount of noise, mainly chopping and chisel work. This hinders my plan as my neighbors aren't happy with constant banging while I chop mortises at 9 p.m. or whatever time it may be. Any suggestions or solutions? The townhomes were built in 2010 and have fire-rated walls between them. Garages cover the entire main floor with kitchen and living room above. Is it worth trying to insulate the space? Would sound panels make a difference? No.
I can't imagine. Right? It's no. Because that's...
Well, all right. I'll get on a acoustical soapbox here. Sound panels are not designed to isolate sound. Sound panels are designed to treat the sound. We have sound panels in here to mitigate any echoes coming from the room. It's not going to stop the sound from traveling to the other side of them. The only thing you could really do is to add mass between you and your neighbor.
Mass, eliminate any direct airflow and any bridging between an interior wall and an outer wall.
Yeah. If you wanted to line your walls with, honestly, the densest thing you can find, MDF.
Or MDF, sorry.
Yeah. MDF works. If we're really going for sound isolation, variations between densities of materials. So I used to build sound isolation cabinets, and I would have MDF, a layer of foam, and rigid foam, and then a layer of particle board. Just any variations in material density absorbs more sound as the energy has to flow between them. That's why also in recording studios you have air gaps, which that variation absorbs sound. But it's really that's a battle you're probably not going to win.
That'll work. You can use that same concept and just go smaller. So instead of the entire room, you make a box, maybe 2 feet square, super insulated. You just put that over your mallet and chisel.
Line up the cut
as you're chopping.
Have one of your kids put the box over the cut, chop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you just need to raise the level on the boom box so they can't hear it.
Or change your technique.
Yeah.
Because really what you're talking about is banging on stuff. You can do a lot towards not banging on stuff. Certain machines are, I think, quiet enough. A bandsaw is probably pretty quiet. Yeah. Drill press is definitely quiet, right?
Drill press.
I was thinking mortiser. It's just like,
Mortise.
right?
Yeah, that's quiet. But even a drill press, like instead of like, say, chopping mortises, if you drill out the majority of the waste, you can get by with more light taps. Use a dead blow mallet instead of a wooden mallet. And just always work either with they're using a mallet or paring by hand. Just take really, really thin slices, thin paring cuts, and work back to your baseline, which is what you should be doing anyway. Obviously, unless you're using some big old massive mortise chisel and you're just chopping those things out, you can modify your chisel game so you're not really banging on stuff. And then a lot of aspects of woodworking are really, really quiet by nature. Cutting dovetails, again, if you're coping out the waste between the tails before you start chopping is probably pretty good. Kumiko, marquetry, inlay, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of really carving. I mean, if you're doing a lot of carving by hand, I don't know, that might be sort of tappy. That
More
could be
like in
kinda
the,
loud.
Yeah, but that's slight taps.
not like the Fonsby carving. That's kind of loud. Like that and mortising, I wouldn't do
Yeah,
at certain hours of the day.
All right.
But just like Mary May type stuff, yeah, that's quiet.
Okay.
Hand pressure stuff.
So you've been an apartment woodworker before, right?
Oh yeah, it's not. You're always nervous about making noise.
Yeah.
So Vic, he did the when he lived in a small space, and I think he was worried about noise. Vic Teslin, sorry, he did the drill press and pare for his mortises, and that works fantastic. I was thinking hollow chisel mortiser because new tool, but depending on space, yeah, just change your technique and you can get there because planing, every other operation isn't terribly loud by hand.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could kind of see some neighbors after 9 o'clock even groaning over a handsaw if they can hear it. All of a sudden they're offended by the act itself. To that effect, I think Jeff might be onto something. It's like turn up the boombox a little bit and drown out the sound.
Yeah.
I would approach him head on, say, hey, I like doing woodworking. I understand it can be loud. What hours work for you? There was a year when I lived in a basement and in a townhome, and in the basement on the other side of like the wood paneling wall was a punk band. But they had talked to us like, hey, can we do it until 9 p.m. or something? It's like, yeah, absolutely. And at 9 p.m., like at 9:01, it was dead quiet.
Yeah.
And just as long as you have an agreement and maybe...
Throw them a box every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. yeah.
There's that CD of Christmas songs played on woodworking tools. I'm serious.
How was I not the one to do that?
So you just turn that on.
Yeah.
And it's like, they go, what's that? Are they working? No, that's Jingle Bells.
We'll allow it.
You shouldn't have told me about that because now I'm not going to get any work done. I'll just be like, what? Ben hasn't produced a video in like 3 months. What's going on in his cube? Any other tricks for apartment woodworking in general, though?
No, the changing your technique, the quieter tools like the dead blow mallet or that round mallet covered in the rubber, the wood is good mallet.
Oh, yeah.
That's quieter than what just...
Oh, yeah.
So techniques and quieter hammer. But yeah, that's it.
Get your sharpening done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Problem is, if that's your only woodworking time, that's kind of rough.
Yeah.
But let's say you can, sneak out on the weekends and get some like loud stuff done, and that might kind of get you through the week doing quieter stuff. Kind of be a little strategic about what you're up to.
Because he mentions milling on the weekend, the occasional weekend.
Yeah.
So there we go.
So
Yeah, we can do it.
yeah.
Mike doesn't have a script. All right. Question number 4 is from Jim. I'm planning to make a handful of cutting boards based on the ideas in Scott Lewis's Fine Woodworking article in issue 233. He uses mineral oil on his cutting boards, but I'd like to hear what you feel is the ideal finish in this circumstance. Obviously, oil makes refinishing or upkeep easy, but I feel like I want some indestructible film finish that makes them mostly maintenance-free. But maybe that's just not a reasonable expectation.
You make cutting boards, Barry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're cutting. Like, I do the oil finish, and I just let them get dinged up and nasty.
Yeah.
Not nasty, but dinged up. The problem or the fear I would have with film finishes is even if it's cure and fine and inert, I guess.
Yeah.
As you're chopping that stuff, you could chop into the finish, chip it out, and get it into your food.
Right.
And that doesn't sound good, you know? Like,
And it's not going to look good.
right.
Yeah.
And refinishing, it's going to be a drag.
Yeah.
So,
This is a cutting board by its very nature is going to be abused.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
one thing, and this isn't a Scott Landis style cutting board, but Follinsby makes cutting boards. And he
Or
makes
Scott Lewis style cutting board.
Scott Lewis, yeah. These aren't workbenches, people. So Follinsby, and what he does is the side you're seeing, the carved side, that faces out whenever he hangs it on the wall. So you have like a nice, beautiful thing, and the other side it gets all chopped up. So if you want something that looks pretty, maybe just have it so one side you can present, have facing up or hanging on the wall. So don't put the feet on there, the little cleats, however you raise it up.
Right.
To just cut it in half, I guess.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's a general rule of thumb is you want a penetrating finish that you're going to be able to renew, that is food safe.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think it's a notion of if you had like a film finish and you slice through it, now you have direct access to the wood. Moisture is going to get in there, and maybe it ain't going to be able to get out as easily as on a unfinished board. So I've used mineral oil, which is greasy. It's kind of blotchy. I've also used tried and true linseed oil, which is the only linseed oil I would recommend because it's food safe. There's no metallic dryers. Don't use boiled linseed oil off of your hardware store shelf. That's nasty. Walnut oil, if you want to go to the store, if you want to use a natural oil. Walnut oil is one of the only uncured oils that won't go rancid. So you don't want to use an olive oil or anything like that because that's
linseed oil. Well,
messy.
Raw
linseed oil?
Raw linseed oil or flax oil if you're going to buy it in,
Or make your own, press your own flax oil.
I've watched YouTube videos on that very thing. And we grow flax in our house. But the only problem with that is a lot of people say that, just give it, a week and it'll be cured. And no, I've finished spoons in flax oil, and 2 months later, it's still like you're eating your cereal with a hint of flax oil in it.
It's good for you.
Yeah.
It's a laxative.
Yeah. But eventually it does cure. It'll just take a couple months. But if you're like super hippie, like I lean sometimes, that's a really, really environmentally friendly way of doing it.
Tongue oil too, right? Like 100% pure tongue oil.
Yeah, that's fine. And that'll cure. Another great finish is you can mix melt beeswax into mineral oil, or you can, I don't know if you want to melt it into linseed oil because it could be kind of flammable.
Nope.
But, shut up, man. But tried and true, they offer a beeswax linseed oil mixture, which is really cool.
Well,
it's
and
kind of smelly, so you don't like it. You don't want to coat a cutting board the night before you give it to a customer because it's going to be really heavy linseed oil smell, which the mineral oil doesn't smell.
They also refine their oil some way, whether it's through heating or, so it's almost at that point stand oil, which is a really expensive linseed oil that's been heated to a certain point.
Right,
and
to start to begin that kind of catalyze that oxidation
polymerization
process.
or whatever.
Yes.
And stand oil is another finish you could use. It's really expensive. You can find it in art supplies.
Oh, in like the little teeny tiny bottles.
Oh, that one.
But realistically, you're not going to use all that much. So one bottle might last you a long time.
Cutting board soaks it right up.
Yeah.
I made a few end grain cutting boards.
Yeah, you're right.
God, this is the worst. It just, you see it go right and be like, dump some more right in.
Yeah, so maybe end grain, it's not what you would pick as stand oil. But tried and true is, to me, almost like a stand oil beeswax
because it's a
finish.
true boiled linseed oil, and you can drink it if you want.
Don't drink it, people.
You can.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Chris Bexford drinks it. Tablespoon every morning.
And don't do something just because Ben tells you to do it, you know? Just drink it.
Just try it, Ben.
So far we've had don't jump off a bridge, and now don't drink oil because Ben says not to.
Someone needs to drink some tried and true linseed oil and tell us.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
The Fine Woodworking Challenge.
Yes.
You know?
Oh, God. And then take a mouthful of cinnamon.
Yeah.
And
then dump a bucket of shellac on your head.
All right.
Yeah, we need to stop this train of thought right now.
Yeah, is there like a legal thing that can just scroll right across the bottom?
Nope. They're just going to sue you too.
We need to back out of this one really carefully.
All right, let's.
You can drink mineral oil. They sell it as a laxative.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
And you can drink flax oil.
You have it with your cereal.
When you eat cereal with a spoon that Ben carved. All right.
Yeah.
Let's hit some listener comments. I would do ones from the website, but we did a giveaway last week, and it was overwhelming. There's like 100 comments, and that's awesome. And everybody is just saying how awesome everybody is, and go team.
Okay.
So that pretty much sums up the comments on the websites right now. Oh, and give me that USB archive. That's what they say. But I think this week, let's do it again.
Okay.
And I think this week you log on to the show notes for this episode 173, and we're going to give away one of Mike's books.
Oh. Yeah, some of them, the pages were falling out. We can give one of those away.
Actually, no, Betsy ordered books, or
Cool.
a book, especially for a giveaway. So,
Can I give a public service announcement really quick? I can wait.
I mean, you've already started.
I already mentioned that. Okay. So my book went out. That's nice. People were saying nice things. One person said, I'm a third of the way through, Mike, this is like a really, really great book, but some of the pages are falling out. It's like, what?
You're reading it wrong.
So it's like, okay, so we got a new book. This is good. And of course, you talk to the books people and they say, well, it could have been just that one. It's like, really? You think so? You think it's just one? And then someone else got one, post a review on Amazon. This book sucks. The pages are falling out. So, of course, I'm like, my life is flashing before my eyes. This is like a horrible thing. Apparently, during the binding process, there's a glue pot that glues the spines of the books. And if the glue pot runs out, you have pages that fall out of your book. So, if you get a book, if you're nice enough to purchase it and actually start to read it and the pages fall out, contact me directly, impecovich@taunton.com. I will make sure you get a book where the pages don't fall out. I will sign it for you and get that into the mail for you ASAP because that's about the worst thing that's ever happened to me. So there. It's not a feature. If they fall out, it's not a good thing.
Take those pages into the shop. It just makes it more handy. Charge extra.
Anyway.
Send them back. I'll perforate it. Or I'll, what's the ring bound?
The 3-ring binder.
Yeah. And then send it back as the shop version.
All right. I'm done.
All right. So let's see. We've got a couple of really great comments on YouTube, some 5-star reviews, which are always welcome. If you tried this podcast when it was new and were unsure, please give it another listen. I don't know why I'm reading this because obviously you're listening already. I'll stick with my opinion from my first review. Turns out you can review 2 times, people. that these guys and gals feel like old friends, and I'm sad when faces change, but the show keeps improving. The hosts, especially Mike and Matt, have really changed the way I spend my time in the shop, and it feels like we could hang out in the shop if they drop by. Thanks all. So, Mike, you're welcome in AV8R Tim's shop at any time.
Right on.
Does that mean he'll leave my shop?
Mike leaving your shop?
Yeah.
Nope.
New home for Mike now.
All right. And from Merce Don. I love these names. Great show. Been keeping up with the new shows as well as starting at number 1 and catching up. Played hours on a road trip with my wife and realized how patient she really is. You need to have Anissa on more. Yeah, we know. Though her words are few, when she speaks, it's always valuable information.
Yeah.
All right. Any recommendations? I have a recommendation. Mike Farrington on YouTube.
Cool.
Awesome videos. Really, really good stuff.
What kind of videos?
He does a lot of like longer. They're like 20-minute almost story videos, like almost like Frank Howarth, but it's cabinetry, building shop furniture, just really good, solid information. He's obviously somebody who either makes the majority of his living as a woodworker or at one point has, because he's really about shop efficiency and, not afraid to break out a biscuit joiner when it's needed, and just really, really good channel.
Cool.
I've been enjoying it. Anybody else have anything?
I have 2.
Oh,
1, hydrate. I feel like it's important. Recently didn't hydrate enough and I was really feeling it. So, but 2, also YouTube, Dorian Bracht.
I just noticed you have a Freud water bottle.
Listen, dude, I strategically pointed the name on it this way away from the camera.
Oh, okay.
I'm the new guy, seasoned vet, blowing up my spot. The other one's Dorian Bracht or Bracht, I'm not sure, on YouTube. So you joked on me for joinery layout. He does really intricate Japanese joinery.
That sounds awful.
And it's a little like sample joints. The layout's a little hard to follow because they're not how-to videos. It's just, watching them work. The layout can be a little hard to follow if you don't know what's coming. But watching them, 1, they're really entertaining because he does a great job. But I've learned a lot more in terms of just like the value of pairing blocks. So he gets near his line, and then if it's an angled cut or a slope cut, he uses these angled pairing cuts to make sure everything that he can pair to his line consistently on each end of the joint and things line up. Cool. It's like, oh yeah, I don't have to nail my line. I can use a pairing block.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, you know how some really annoying people say, when you pull out your sharpening gear to sharpen one tool, why don't you go ahead and sharpen all the tools that need to be sharpened?
Yeah.
I hate that person. I've said that in the past, so myself included. Here's the thing. Okay, you need to sharpen something. Don't get bogged down by the fact, if I pull my sharpening stuff out, I have to sharpen everything. You don't. Okay, just tell yourself, I'm going to just sharpen this one tool and I don't care. And then once the stuff is out, sharpen one more tool.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's legit.
Oh, I like that, because you are practicing then. 'Cause I have like dedicated a Saturday to sharpening to better my sharpening skill set.
Yes.
Like you would practice an instrument. But I like that. Sharpen what you need to get the job done at hand. Sharpen one more just for kicks.
I did that last night. I need to sharpen a handplane. And then I said, okay, I need to do this chisel because it dropped the last time I taught, and I know it had a dinged up corner. I ended up sharpening 3 chisels and a plane iron. I felt very good about that. And I didn't feel bad about not sharpening some of the other hand planes that needed to be sharpened. So it's a good day.
Cool.
Nice.
All right. Well, that's all for this episode of Shop Talk Live. If you have questions you'd like us to answer on the show, send them into shoptalk@taunton.com. If you're watching on YouTube, click that thumbs up button. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. Thanks for listening. Well done, Barry freaking Demo.
Well done, Barry.
Thank you.
I completely missed that flea market because I was in New York with Ben's wife.
I almost water everywhere. It's funny because it's true.